Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something really fundamental for anyone learning anything,
Yeah, we're talking study habits, how to build ones that actually work.
and also looking at this connection between just general well-being and, how well you do academically.
It's a fascinating link. We've got some great sources lined up, some really practical tips from Adam Learning on routines.
Mm. And then there's this Reddit discussion from I Want to Learn. It gets into discipline versus motivation. Always a hot topic.
Definitely. And we'll also unpack a pretty hefty study from the Journal of Learning Analytics.
Right, a big one.
Yeah.
Looking at thousands of students' well-being and their academic results.
Exactly. So our mission here is to pull out the actionable stuff for you, the key insights from all this, so you can maybe tweak your own approach to learning and well-being.
Okay, let's dive in. Let's start with Adam Learning and building that study routine.
Right. One of their first big points is about breaking things down. Bite-sized chunks.
It sounds simple, but why is that so important for, actually remembering stuff?
Well, it's about how our brains work, really. We can't just absorb hours of info effectively. They mention attention spans, especially for kids.
Oh, yeah. What sort of times are we talking?
They suggest it could be somewhere between, say, 14 minutes on the low end, maybe up to 21 minutes for younger children. So expecting long, unbroken sessions just isn't realistic.
That makes a lot of sense. It ties into their next point, too, about circadian rhythms or body clocks.
Totally. Aligning study with your natural energy levels, it can make a huge difference.
So are there general patterns? Are we all morning people?
Not quite, but there are trends. Younger kids often are more morning-oriented, while teenagers tend to shift later, more towards evenings.
Interesting.
And Adam Learning actually found in their own data, get this, kids using their platform in the morning showed 59% faster progress.
But 59%? Wow.
Yeah. It's not just about feeling awake. Biologically, things like cortisol levels peak in the morning, which helps with focus, memory.
So their brain is just more receptive?
Pretty much. Primed for learning new things. Mid-morning, early afternoon can also be good times.
But watch out for that afternoon slump.
Exactly. That dip in energy many people feel, maybe save the heavy lifting for earlier and use the afternoon for, I don't know, review or lighter tasks.
Okay. Adam Learning also mentioned tech. Not as a distraction, but as a tool.
Right. Using it smartly. Things like music or white noise to focus. Those study playlists on Spotify or YouTube.
Guilty. I've definitely used those.
They can really work for some people. And of course, they talk about engaging online learning platforms like their own that make things more interactive.
Yeah, they shared a quote, didn't they, from a parent
Mm-hmm.
about how their daughter felt more ownership and
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do the work because of the platform. That sense of control is huge.
Definitely. Okay, so structure helps. Timing matters.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Consistency.
Yes, the bedrock of any habit. Showing up regularly, even for those shorter chunks.
They suggest, weekly timetables. Planning study, but also fun and social time. Exactly. Scheduling it all in. And they mention tackling homework early, planning revision ahead. It just reduces that last-minute pressure,
Leaves the stress out.
Yeah,
And the study space itself. Does that matter?
they think so.
Yeah.
Having a consistent, comfortable spot, you can personalize it. It sort of signals to your brain, okay, it's learning time now.
Creates an association.
Yeah. And they tie this all back to basic well-being, too. Sleep, good food, water, moving your body.
Right, you can't study well if you're exhausted or hungry. It's holistic.
Exactly. And finally, communication, talking about it. Celebrating effort, not just results.
Checking in if someone's struggling.
Yeah, and figuring out why. Is it boredom, worry, distractions, maybe something like neurodiversity playing a role?
So it's about having that consistent structure, but also being flexible and supportive when things get tough.
That's the balance they advocate for.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit. From routines to, pure grit, maybe. This Reddit discussion on discipline over motivation.
Yeah, I want to learn. It's a really direct argument. Motivation fades, discipline is what gets you through. It's about showing up at your set time, period, no matter how you feel.
That sounds tough, but practical. What are the actual steps they suggest?
Very concrete stuff. Get a specific notebook and pen just for studying. Decide on your work hours. The example was 1 to 6 p.m. set alarms.
Treat it like a job, almost.
Pretty much.
Mm.
Make that time sacrosanct, they said. Minimize distractions, phone on do not disturb, everything else away.
And focus on one thing.
One task at a time, Crush the task was the phrase, then physically cross it off the list, that little dopamine hit.
I get that. Sense of accomplishment.
And then only plan, say, 3 main tasks for the next day. If you didn't finish something, it goes first. Keep it manageable.
And the reward.
Guilt-free fun after the work is done. Stick to the schedule, then relax properly.
They also mentioned a book, The War of Art.
Yeah, by Stephen Pressfield. Often recommended for artists and writers facing blocks, but the idea of overcoming resistance applies here too.
It's interesting how others responded to this on Reddit.
Yeah, really insightful comments. One person with ADHD said this kind of structured distraction minimizing approach really clicked with them because willpower is finite, Proactively removing temptations helps.
That makes sense. Relying less on internal willpower and more on external structure.
Exactly. And another user talked about finding their motivation through action, watching videos, reading books, but critically establishing that rhythm.
So the discipline came first, then motivation followed.
It seems like it for them. And they also stressed self-care, good sleep, nutrition, supportive friends, echoing that idea. Don't wait to feel motivated, just start.
So we've got the Atom learning approach, build sustainable, pleasant routines, use tech wisely, align with your body clock.
And then the Reddit perspective, raw discipline, structure, eliminate distractions, just do it.
They seem different, but maybe complementary. Both emphasize structure and consistency.
Absolutely. Different paths, maybe, but the destination effective learning requires that consistent effort.
Which brings us neatly to the big research piece, the Journal of Learning Analytics study. Huge scale, right?
Massive. Over 215,000 students in South Australia, years 4 to 10, data from 2016 to 2019.
And they were looking at this Well-Being Engagement Collection Index, the WEC, and academic results like NEPLAN.
That's right. They wanted to see how well-being, broadly defined, actually connects to academic outcomes.
And the big takeaway was?
Well, it was maybe a bit surprising. The overall WEC index, putting all the well-being and engagement factors together, only had a modest impact on academic results.
Modest. So just being happy or engaged doesn't automatically mean better grade.
Not directly, it seems. The nuance is crucial. It wasn't all well-being aspects. One specific part stood out.
Which was?
Learning readiness. That factor had the most significant positive link to academic outcomes.
Okay, define learning readiness in this context. What does that include?
Good question. In this study, it covered 3 main things. Academic self-concept, basically. Do you believe you can succeed academically?
Right. Self-belief.
Then perseverance. Do you stick with things even when they're tough? And finally, engagement or flow, that feeling of being absorbed and maybe even enjoying the learning process itself.
So it's less about general happiness and more about feeling capable, determined, and switched on for learning.
That's what the data strongly suggests. That internal drive and belief seem more directly predictive of academic success than some other aspects of well-being or school engagement.
That's a really important distinction. The study used this WC index, which sounds quite comprehensive. What else did it measure?
It broke down into 3 main indexes. Emotional well-being looked at stuff like life satisfaction, optimism, happiness, but also sadness and worries. Those were reverse-coded, and emotion regulation.
Okay. And engagement.
Engagement with school measured connection to adults, school climate, sense of belonging, peer relationships, friendships, bullying experiences, and engagement with teachers, both emotional and cognitive.
And the third was learning readiness, which we just discussed, self-concept, perseverance, flow. So when they looked at those 3 indexes individually against academic results, how did they stack up?
Well, as we said, learning readiness showed the strongest positive link. Engagement with school showed a slight positive link, but minimal.
And emotional well-being.
That one, on its own, had a negligible effect overall on academic outcomes, according to this study.
Wow. Negligible. So feeling good emotionally didn't really move the needle on test scores in this data set.
Not in a statistically significant way, generally speaking, which really drives home that point about learning readiness being key.
And it reinforces that idea that you can't assume high achievers have high well-being, or vice versa.
Precisely. They operate somewhat independently. You really need to look at both. You can have kids acing tests but struggling inside, or kids who are happy and connected but not hitting academic benchmarks.
It's complex.
Yeah.
Do they mention anything about why this might be? Like what connects well-being and achievement, if anything?
They touched on self-regulated learning, SRL, as a potential mediator, meaning things like being able to plan your study, manage your time, monitor your understanding. Those skills might be the bridge. Like, positive emotions might help more if you also have the skills to channel that energy effectively into learning tasks.
Okay. So Well-being might enable better self-regulation, which then leads to better outcomes.
That's one potential pathway they suggested.
And these findings were pretty consistent across different age groups and years before COVID hit.
Yes, that pre-pandemic consistency is useful. It gives us a baseline. Future research will have to see how things might have changed since.
Now, you mentioned some really interesting gender differences.
Yes, this was quite striking. The overall WEC index seemed to have a stronger effect on academic outcomes for boys than for girls, except in numeracy.
Stronger for boys, how so?
Specifically, emotional well-being had a noticeable impact on literacy results for boys. But for girls, that link was basically absent.
Really? Why would that be?
The researchers speculated a bit. One idea was that girls, on average, might have a stronger academic self-concept when it comes to literacy.
So maybe their confidence in reading and writing is less tied to their day-to-day emotional state compared to boys.
That's one possible interpretation. It's definitely an area needing more research.
But learning readiness, that was important for both genders.
Yes, the factors within learning readiness, like perseverance and self-belief, showed pretty comparable positive associations with academic results for both boys and girls.
So what's the practical takeaway from all this research for, say, schools or educators?
Well, it suggests maybe integrating well-being measures into how we track student progress, looking beyond just grades. It gives a fuller picture.
A more holistic view.
Right. And it really highlights the importance of actively fostering that learning readiness, building students' confidence, their perseverance, their engagement.
That seems crucial.
And the gender findings, while needing more exploration, hint that maybe different approaches are needed to support boys and girls, especially around literacy and emotional well-being.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've covered a lot.
We have. From Adam Learning's focus on structured, manageable routines and aligning with rhythms.
To that Reddit argument for sheer discipline when motivation flags.
And then this big study showing the complex link between well-being and academic success, where learning readiness seems to be particularly powerful.
Especially that feeling capable, persevering, being engaged in the learning itself.
And we noted those interesting gender differences, particularly the stronger link between emotional well-being and literacy for boys in this study. Lots to think about there.
Definitely. So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. If we take all this on board, the need for routine, the power of discipline, the critical role of learning readiness, the nuances of well-being, even these gender differences,
Yeah.
how can we educators, learners, parents actually create approaches that weave all this together? Strategies that boost both effective learning and holistic well-being to really set people up for long-term success.
That's the big question, isn't it? How to build that integrated approach. Definitely something worth mulling over.
Indeed. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Lots of food for thought.